It's our first one. This is the Meat of the Matter podcast. We are coming from 3 countries. We got Holland, Ireland, Canada in the house. We are here to answer questions, have some fun, talk about things they don't talk about. This is the place where we meet and you matter. And we're going to spare the subtleties. We're going to spare all the intros and all the good stuff and get right into it. And, you know, Mark and Peter, we have a problem on our hands, and it's an epidemic. And we're going to talk some hormones today, specifically.
Absolutely.
Female hormones. And you know what, before everybody jumps down my throat and says, you know, what the hell did 3 guys know about hormones? Well, you know, I guess we're going to find out. So we welcome you to ask any questions. We are here to discuss some stuff that they don't talk about. So Mark, there's a problem out there. What's going on right now?
There's a major problem out there at the moment, and it's all to do with our food system and too many fake influencers on social media. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, in our spaces, and we've seen this over and over again. I know you've dealt with you deal with a lot of lady clients. So, you know, from menopause to infertility and to actual fat and metabolism, what's wrong with the general outlook on hormones? Like when a woman presents herself to you with these issues, what do you think?
The main issue is the diet. The main issue is this diet culture that women have been doing for many years, under eating, over exercising, and it's absolutely it's destroying their health. This is the one thing I see constantly with women, that they're just constantly underfeeding their bodies, and they don't understand they don't understand the damage this has on the reproductive system, especially for women and their hormones, and especially for women who want to give birth. That by doing this over and over and over again, you're actually doing a lot more damage.
I see. Yeah, and you know, I've kind of related a lot of things. You know, when a woman or a lady presents herself, like, you know, asks me for help, and we look into some things, and I kind of feel like, you know, these infertility, whether it's PCOS, endometriosis, a lot of these things can relate directly back to the diet. And I'm a firm believer, if you just look at, you know, sex hormones and the cascade of what it takes to make them, you know, it's cholesterol. And how do you feel about the zeitgeist in the cholesterol space right now? Do you are you?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the big issue at the moment.
Yeah. So when women eat more fat, what happens? Anyone? Peter, can we hear you? So just before we're getting,
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, before we're getting things going, we are new, everybody. So bear with us. We're working out some technical bugs. We got 3 time zones going right now, from Holland, Ireland, and Canada. So we've already mixed up the times a couple times. It was great. Anyway, we're talking about hormones. We're talking about estrogen. We're talking about the female issues that are going on. And it's my belief, you know, and I don't want to, you know, I don't mean to offend. And for the record, we are not doctors. We are not scientists, but we all have had our share of experience with these things. And estrogen and fat, like our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. The cascade, the enzymes, the stuff are made from amino acids, from protein. And what our general, you know, the common media narrative is low fat, plant-based, low cholesterol. Peter, do you think that's a good idea? Peter, do you think that's a good idea? Did you hear me, Peter? Did you think that's a good idea to lower your cholesterol?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Can you hear me as well?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on estrogen and the cholesterol part as building blocks, but sure, it's a building block of estrogen and male hormones as well, of course. So it makes sense, right? If you are really eating a little fat, that your body has to produce all the cholesterol itself. So that's already it's going to help. And personally, I think insulin plays a major role in this one as well. If your insulin levels are high, the thing is that the insulin, it focuses, of course, primarily on the blood glucose, but it does a lot more, especially on managing things in the womb and the ovaries.
Yeah.
And if it's high, you get also this PCOS type of stuff, that high insulin. Well, this is a sort of layman's explanation, but high insulin will just activate everything to the extreme.
Yeah. And you know, like when I'm gonna add Mark. There we go. Oh, he's gone again. Whatever. We got some international discrepancies going on. But no, you're right. And the thing, like what I've kind of come to realize is that when we're dealing with these things in the health space, quite often we zero in on one thing. And what you're talking about with insulin, what Mark's talking about with estrogen and hormones, it's all tied into it. And it all starts with the foundations, and it all starts with food. And my personal, philosophy is, how can you expect to function properly, optimal even, when you're not getting the building blocks and you're disrupting the foundations and disrupting the stuff that makes the stuff, that lets the stuff do the stuff, if that makes any sense. Mark, when women come to you, what's the hardest thing to relate to them, to what to do? Did you hear me?
And in regards to the foods.
Yeah. They probably don't want to eat a lot. They
so
probably
the one thing people struggle.
Go on. Can you hear us?
I'm just trying to get this because my internet is not the best at the moment.
That's okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we're dealing with some international airwaves here. So
Irish internet.
And yes, this is a no duck food zone. All right. How are you doing, Mark? You ready? Give me a test. Give me a good.
Sorry about this, guys.
Yeah, no worries. We're going to work out some kinks. So anybody that's joining us, just bear with us. We're new. Our tech guru is Peter, and the rest of us are pretty. This is an experimental go, and I'll promise we'll get better. And we're not here to offend anybody, but we are here to challenge some things that are very serious. We all see some serious things going on, and we just start right off the bat. Let's talk hormones, because I think that's a real big thing. All the ladies that I talk to, they have these things that are just programmed in and incepted into their brains that it's very difficult to come around. Just telling somebody they need to eat more. It's already, you look at your plate and you're seeing whatever, if it's a big chunk of meat and a dozen eggs, and that's not enough sometimes.
The problem is the quality of the food people are eating. It's just all. The reason why so many people are struggling is because the quality of the food is absolutely poor, and there's way too much focus on calories. You've got to understand the body needs nutrients, not calories.
I agree. And, this big push, and this is where, where we're going to try and play, some devil's advocate here. We're going to try and tackle things from all angles. And you have doctors and you have scientists telling people that, hey, seed oils aren't that bad. Don't worry about it. And they'll tell you a little bit is enough. In moderation. You need sugar. How do you feel about that, Peter, when someone tells you that you need sugar?
Yeah, I don't need it. That's the simple answer. And for me personally, I've been 16 years, I've been a type 1 diabetic. And only after 14 years, I learned about the term gluconeogenesis. And actually, when I looked back, I noticed every time that when my blood sugars would go up in the night and that sort of things, that happened after eating a lot of protein. Yeah. So, or cheese.
Yeah, no doubt.
If I eat cheese during the day, then in the night it goes up like to 140, 180 if I don't do anything. And that's gluconeogenesis.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? That they don't even tell about it.
No doubt.
And see, the problem is a lot of people need to understand this, that yes, the body needs insulin, but you do not need chronically elevated insulin. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And, when, from our experience, that chronically elevated insulin, for one, they don't test it. You go into a doctor's office and you want to know your fasting insulin levels or your insulin levels. They'll look at you like you're not diabetic. What are you worried about?
Exactly, yeah.
And I find these, when, especially the women out there, I just want you to come, please imagine this. You're like a tower, and everything in this tower has things that need to work together. They need to be in the right places at the right times. As soon as you start taking out these things and the stuff that makes the stuff, what happens? It's mayhem.
Yeah.
And most people, they get caught up in what they tell you and trust the science.
Yeah.
Now, if a doctor's presenting something, you ask them a question, but they don't care. I just did a video on first do no harm. I mean, where is that balance? And what you're saying, Mark, is it's real food. It's real nutrition. That's what we need. It
has to be, because we need to. I'm constantly saying this on a daily basis. We need to move away from this diet culture as quick as possible, because people don't understand that this low fat trend that we're on, this is what's actually doing the damage.
And it's
this is why so many people are suffering with their health, because we've been taught that we need to follow a low fat diet, and
and it's worse if you look at if you look at the fats as well. Those fats that they still do eat, what fats are it? Plant seeds with plant sterols, so they will further drop the real cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
So I imagine that will also add up to the problems related to endometriosis, PCOS, and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, because a lot of people are thinking that, okay, if I go on a high fat diet, I need to be in like the likes of like peanut butter, almond butter. But people need to understand that these are not essential fats. Essential fats are saturated fats.
Yeah.
People need to understand that when we hear the word saturated fats, I understand that we were all thought that we need to fear cholesterol. Cholesterol is bad for us, it clogs our arteries, but it couldn't be further than the truth, guys. We need saturated fats. When people come out with these ridiculous studies on saturated fats, nobody takes into consideration, when they did these studies, what else they were having with these foods. So when you're going into McDonald's or you're having that hamburger, what else are you having it with? Are you having it with alcohol? Are you having it with the bun? Like, what else are you having it with? That's where they didn't look. That's where they failed. Yeah. Saturated fat was never, ever the problem.
And also, when you just look at it from a basic layman, saturated fat brings fat soluble vitamins to the table. Saturated fat is found with protein in nature. And really, if you look at the breakdown of red meat with associated fat, it's not all saturated. It's like we've got this big fear. And, I, myself, Peter and Mark, look at all of us. We're pretty much high fat. Obviously,
I'll tell you, I'm eating 2 sticks of butter currently. That's more than I'm used to, but 2 sticks of butter, 250 grams of butter a day. So that's, for some people, that's their caloric intake of the day.
And not to mention, how long have you been high fat, Mark?
How long have you been high fat? Nearly 3.5 years now.
Peter, how long have you been high fat?
Nearly 3.5 years.
Peter?
Yeah, definitely 1 or 1.5 years. And I already started from keto, which was high fat, and then I went to carnivore.
I've been high fat for almost 5 years. Look at us all. We're not fat. Fat does not make you fat. It's clear. And, people will come on and say it's not good for you. And, and that's where it breaks my heart, because there's so much inundated programming that you can't let go of. And unless you're willing, because this is where we're getting into hormones and infertility. And this could be an existential human problem, because we can't have kids anymore. Look at the men, and testosterone is low, and we can argue dollars and cents. But the fact of the matter is, more and
Yeah.
more men are needing testosterone replacement therapy. And I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but when you break it back to 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago, we could make babies, and now look at us. And
Yeah.
I feel for the women because, it's so, they've done a great job programming us with, magazines and bullshit about trying to just eat low fat, eat less food, eat less, move more, low calorie, starve yourself. And it's cruel. And if you can just, I wish everybody could see it from our perspective, because the people that are just starting out, it's so counterintuitive. And, Mark, we've talked a little bit about insulin, but now how does insulin drive us, and like sort of explain how it goes into the other hormones, specifically with our hunger?
So what happens is when we the reason why we need to be focusing a lot more on hormone, especially hormone health, is especially down to the carbohydrate model. And this is where insulin kicks in, because this is where a lot of damage is going to be done when it comes to the female body. Because what will happen is when insulin is elevated too high, this is going to have a huge impact on the overall health. And this also has a huge impact on males also. When Peter was saying about the testosterone, when we lower our testosterone, you're increasing your estrogen. And this is what insulin actually does. When we have a higher level of amount of sugar entering the body, your estrogen levels are gonna rise very, very high, and your testosterone is gonna decline massively. And this is the exact same thing that what happens to women. When our insulin levels are too high, what's gonna happen is our health markers are actually gonna drop down. We don't want this.
No. And if you just look at, and I know
we don't want estrogen to drop too low. We don't want it elevated too high. We want to bring it down a small bit.
That's right. And if you just look at, we'll get you to chime in a second, Peter. But if you just look at, Mark, you're a bodybuilder. You've done competitions. You understand this whole thing. Now there's the performance enhancement drug debate. But if you just take yourself out of this and look at what happens when you overdo free testosterone, what happens? These guys have to take an anti-estrogen.
Exactly.
If you just take that out of the context of a bodybuilder, that's an extreme situation. Yeah. But what do you think's happening to our bodies when, especially if these enzymes and these peptides don't get the protein required to make them? And insulin is a peptide hormone. So
absolutely. 100%.
So all of these things can chase back on their own tails. And when I'm helping women, it's important to realize that it's the foundations. And it's, yes, Rick's got it right there. The heart attack diet. I would argue everybody should be trying to get a heart attack the Rick way, and you'd be better off. You're going to feel better. And Peter, what do you notice with insulin, specifically being a type 1 diabetic? Because for all those that don't know, Peter needs to know this stuff because insulin is paramount to his health. So he has a great perspective. And yes, he's been a carnivore for multiple years. So he's done it. So if you're type 1 diabetic or a type 1 diabetic, reach out to him, because you know what? He's living proof that this can be done. But Peter, insulin, and how does that affect your manliness? Do you notice a dip? Do you notice a dip in any kind of things that you want to do? Do you notice energy? What if your insulin's off a little bit?
Well, I think on that point it's quite okay. I eat so much fat anyway that I don't suffer problems from that, I think. And in terms of insulin, a very nice thing about carnivore diet, which I only realized much later, already after 1 year or so, is currently I have a lot more body fat. It's wintertime. I'm no longer cycling like I did the past 1.5 years. And of course, I will gain a little bit of weight. But first of all, my arms are still, there's some base level of muscles. But when I look at the insulin resistance, that's very interesting. In the past, if I would go out of season, out of cycling seasons, I would start eating a lot of, continue to eat a lot of carbohydrates and also gain a lot of body fat. But my insulin resistance would change a lot. And in daily life, I would be injecting a lot of more insulin. And now actually, whether I am cycling a lot, whether I'm weightlifting or not, or whether I'm in the winter season with at least a few percentage of body fat more, the insulin resistance is the same. I still use about 20 or 25 units of insulin per day, which for a guy of 200 pounds, about more or less, that's quite okay. I think if you look on the internet, if you ask ChatGPT or Google about how much does a average pancreas produce of insulin, you'll see numbers like 30 or 40 almost. But also, the 25, that's just a nice number. And what you also see is what is healthy for a type 1 diabetic is basically healthy for a regular person. So
there's
we have to do it, but
there's a lot of segue.
If we don't do it, then our glucose goes all the way.
Yeah, it's just, when it's kind of, like I will get your thoughts on this in a second, Mark, but when you eat a proper human species-specific diet, it is that across the board. It doesn't matter if you're 5. It doesn't matter if you're 80. We have a diet. People, we can argue what it is. We can argue what's optimal, but what's optimal is the species-specific diet. That's clear. And, we can get into the weeds anytime about the distractions and the processed food-driven addiction and all that stuff. But I want to tie it back in because I know, Mark, you have a lot to say about this. And that's, and we're not here to just sugarcoat everything, no pun intended. We're here to get into the weeds. And I want to talk about Ozempic. And Mark, I know you've done a lot of material addressing this serious issue. And I just saw a headline the other day saying, these people are having some issues. Tell me your thoughts. I want you to just unleash on this Ozempic craze, this nonsense.
Okay, so the biggest factor I have with this is the GLP-1 that people constantly go on about. But people need to understand that your gut produces all the GLP-1 that you need. When we look at the majority of people in the world at the moment that are suffering with obesity, all we're hearing from our medical system at the moment is this is a medical problem. The reason why you're obese is because it's a medical problem. It's genetic. There's nothing we can do about it. Absolute horseshit. I'm going to explain this to people. So make sure you guys, you really, really listen to this. When we look at Ozempic, when people take it, it shuts off that hunger hormone. That's what it does. It stops you guys from eating. Now, you need to understand this. You need to understand what is causing the problem. So this is where we need to focus on our hormones. This is where the likes of ghrelin, your insulin, leptin, these all need to be taken into consideration. Now, if we focus on our hunger, which is our leptin hormone, if we eat the foods that keep our leptin high and keep our insulin low, you are going to be able to control your hunger very, very quickly. So those people that are suffering with food noise at the moment, and you're finding that you cannot stop eating no matter what you do, and you feel like there's something wrong with you. Guys, there's nothing wrong with you. And the last thing that you need is a fucking injection for the rest of your life. You need to also consider the price that people pay for these injections on a month-to-month basis. These injections are going for nearly $400 a month. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. It really is crazy. All of this can be avoided through a proper human diet.
I agree 100%. And I just wanted to address the comments there. Guys, we're just new. We're trying to figure it out. Peter's on the bottom. We're gonna get to the comments and stuff when we can, and I love it, Mark. But Mark, you're absolutely right, and it's gone to absolute madness, and it's in my kind of opinion. All right, Peter's showing this stuff. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I honestly do believe it's on purpose, and
Yeah.
it's driven to play with our heartstrings and play with our, we're the sheep getting herded right now, and it's really really tough, and it's a hard pill to swallow, that red pill. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and that's, I think all three of us, our messages are trying to just get people aware and come out of the clouds. There's some sunshine.
I can't stand by and watch people do this. I just can't. I need to keep spreading the word. I need to keep telling people, like, listen, you don't need to go down this route. This is the last thing you should be doing. I promise you, this is not a medical problem.
Yeah, and if you just trust Charger Mopar, trust Rick, the 40-year carnivore, eat more fat, get thinner. I think that's pretty much it, right? That's true.
It is. At the end of the day, when we look at, it's very, very simple. The way I see it is, we have 2 macronutrients that are essential. If you look at the macronutrient that's not essential, I don't care what fitness influencer says different. Carbohydrate is a non-essential macronutrient. The body does not need any carbohydrate whatsoever. And when I hear people talk about, but hang on a second, what about glucose? Your body needs glucose. Your brain needs glucose. Guys, this is where people don't understand this. Yes, your body needs glucose, but your body produces all the glucose it needs through the liver. And as the guys were mentioning earlier, we can also get glucose through gluconeogenesis from eating protein.
Yeah.
Okay. So protein is where we can convert the sugar, so we can get all the sugar that we need. Your body produces all the sugar that we need also. When we look at fats, we need to understand this also. There are 2 energy sources. We can get energy from fats and we can get energy from carbohydrates. Now, the problem with a lot of people at the moment, a lot of people are suffering with insulin resistance. A lot of people out there are suffering with chronic disease. So we need to step back and say, okay, why is this happening? Why is this happening to so many people out there? This is where we need to look at our food system. We need to look at where those mistakes are happening. And we need to look at what's been happening in the last 100 years. And if you look in the last 100 years, you can clearly see that our supermarkets are the problem. Because if you read the labels on most of our foods, you will see on the labels, these labels are filled with crap, literally crap. You only need to look at basically now to what happened, say, years ago. There was very, very few ingredients on labels, whereas now you could have nearly 50 ingredients on one food. We also need to understand that when we're eating these foods, chemicals are not food. Let me repeat that again. Chemicals are not food.
And Rick, what Rick is saying down there, just compare us carnivores to the standard dieters and the vegans. And this is not. I honestly, if you want to be a vegan, that's your choice. I don't care. Is there a way to be healthy? Maybe it would take a lot of work from my perspective. But one thing in this space, and which is wild, is over and over again, we see new people starting to eat real food, starting the carnivore diet, whatever you want to label it as. People are changing. People are getting better, and people are still all about saying how it's not sustainable, it's not good long term, there's no science. Look at history. Mark, what are your thoughts? Peter, you tell us, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, one thing that you'll see is that people that go on the carnivore diet or even keto for that type of diet, they will never return to their original diet. I don't know them. Yeah, maybe there is the occasional, I know one actually. There's the vegetable police, this guy, but he has switched between vegan and carnivore like 10, 20 times. I mean, it's a funny channel. I like to watch his videos, but otherwise, I know a Dutch woman. She's carnivore. Well, I think more ketovore now for 15 years.
Yeah.
She just told me that she didn't eat vegetables for 15 years. Well, in the Netherlands, that is unheard of. not eating vegetables, because our government is really very active at promoting the half a pound of vegetables per day.
Yeah, no doubt, in Canada too. Mark, and when what do you think about, like, when someone comes to you for help, and what's the hardest thing to sort of switch them onto? And do you find that do you just sort of give it a blanket, or do you specifically say, eat this?
No, the biggest factor is always going to be the fats. Always. The reason for that is because we were all brainwashed that for every 1 gram of fat has 9 calories.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest issue I have with people, because they're constantly calorie counting, and they want to make sure that if they're going to be calorie counting, they want to take out the one macro that has the most calories. And the one thing about fats is, yes, they do contain a lot of, like, if we're going to focus on calories, like I said, 1 gram is like 9 calories. But like I said at the very, very beginning, we need to move away from this, because this is what's actually harming the world at the moment. It really is. We need to move away from this term of, okay, too many fats is too many calories. Now, I'm not saying to someone who's watching that, okay, if you want to get in shape, just eat a lot of fats and just eat a lot of protein. Obviously, you need to count your macros, and you need to make sure you're eating for your body type. But I've seen with a lot of people, it depends really. I've seen with men do really, really well on a higher fat diet, and I see women mostly do well on a high protein diet. But the biggest factor I see from both male and female is just that if I eat too.
We lost them. Well, you know what, Rick? To be honest with you, none of the foods that I buy have an ingredient list either. I think that's a great rule of thumb. I think, just, man, put two things together. Put one ingredients together. You have a stew, a salad, or a soup. Really, I mean, I'll give up the salads. Like, it's a waste of my time. But,
and it's already bad enough if you buy eggs. I mean, they don't have an ingredient list, but if you think about it, if I buy the wrong eggs, I get stuff on my face. My stomach reacts. There are ingredients in those as well.
But I mean, I think we can get into that too, because, like, sorry, Mark, we lost you, but he's back. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. But what we can talk about with ingredients. Now we're going to get into some of the things. That's right. Process, you're a scavenger in the concrete jungle, no doubt. But what Peter was sort of brushing on there is quality. And I think quality matters. And quality is kind of next level when we deal with, okay, this has this in such a food, but where did it come from? How did it get there? What have they done to it? And I think that's something that's really, really overlooked, because all things aren't created equal. We in the carnivore space, we just have to look at the farm. You know what I mean? You go to grass-fed, grass-finished, or grass-fed, grain-finished, corn-finished, there's different tastes, there's different qualities. You'll have different reactions, and it's possible. And I've done the same thing. Like, I have a certain farm that I get eggs from, and I find I feel better. And that is kind of a lost. It's something that people don't really understand, is when you dial back your diet to specifically what you need and how you're feeling and watching your body signals. As soon as you change things up, you start to notice. I can tell how my body feels after different pigs. I can tell if I eat shitty chicken. I can tell with eggs. And it's very subtle. But at first I thought I was like, is this, but you know what? When you start guiding yourself into the intuition side, and it is a jungle out there, Richard. It is a jungle, because, we're stuck doing the best we can. And I mean, sometimes, is it optimal? No, but you got to get through with what you can do. Now, when we're all, it's I don't want to start preaching, because that's not what we're all about. And we really do appreciate the comments, and thanks for guys for hanging out. We are going to do this every Sunday. We're going to get into some stuff And just before we get a little bit further, I just want to say we came up with this idea in a matter of weeks. I was thinking every month. Mark was like, "Let's do it twice a week, baby," and it was like, "Okay, we're on." And I think we all bring a very unique style and a unique way about this space. And one thing, it's we'll get into this. I think this will be a good thing to get into. Is you notice how carnivores, people in the ketovore, low carb, people are just nicer. Do you guys notice that?
100%. And this is the reason why I love having these conversations with you guys, because in my country, we don't talk about carnivore. We don't talk about keto, because when I talk about it, people think that I'm going to kill people. You know what I mean? And it's very, very frustrating for me that I live in a country where I can't have a conversation about this to anybody.
Yeah.
So when I meet you guys on TikTok and I'm meeting other carnivores out there, it's amazing, because not only am I learning from you guys, but that the community is unbelievable. We all want people to do well. I love hearing people's success stories. You know what I mean? I love hearing people's when they come off, like when they reverse their diabetes, they reverse their mental health. It's just, when you hear these stories, it's just life changing.
It's
magic. And I just wish, and I really do hope that there are more people out there that are going to do the exact same thing that we're doing, because I just think we need to get the voice. We just need to get that message out there and just keep on growing this community, because I just feel we are growing. I think eventually we will take over, and I can see now people are starting to listen.
Yeah. I mean, and Rick, I'll join you. I'll come and see you on Saturdays, brother. I've been off YouTube because I've been, Mark and Peter, you guys, just a quick aside, you guys have inspired me to get back on track and spread the message, because I was feeling a little lost, and not to mention my country, our laws and our government right now is going through, it's crazy. It's nuts. And my YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it, was it came to a screaming halt. And I'm going to get back into this. Is bringing me back into, just screaming from the rooftops that, it breaks my heart that I see people in the grocery store gasping for air, morbidly obese, eating shit. And you try and say, give them a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, we should eat a little meat. They look at you like you're gonna die. And
well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this much, and this is coming from the heart. I don't do this for likes. I genuinely don't do this. I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less how many followers I have, how many likes I have. Last year was a very, very tough year for me. I lost my partner's mother, and I lost my partner's father to cancer last year. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I don't want anybody else to suffer. I really, really just don't want to see anybody else suffer. The information that I got when these two people were on their deathbed was absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. All I kept on hearing was, we just give them more medication. We just keep giving them more medication. We just keep on giving them a poor diet. Just because I haven't got a PhD or I'm a doctor does not mean you should not listen to me. And I'm determined. I am absolutely determined for those people that are not listening to me. You will eventually, because I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make every single day. I don't care. Every single day, I'm going to do a passionate video, and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it until these people listen.
And we're going to do a little thought experiment here. We're going to switch the dial, because what you're saying, Mark, is true. And like we can look at it from a proper human diet perspective. We can look at it from a whatever diet you want to do. What would happen if for 1 month, this is, I'm gonna start with you, Peter. So here we go. One month, the world goes low carb, ketovore, carnivore. Peter, what do you think would happen? The world.
Yeah, I would even say actually if they go medium carb or even below just 100 grams of carbohydrates, if you solve all those issues, I think actually the government should know, that's maybe the most important thing, the billions of dollars or euros that go through medical industry. And I always say that where money flows, there's the pollution. So if you want to solve climate change, if you want to improve the environment, improve the health of the people, because you'll be putting like a few percentage of emissions. Let's say that I think it's 5 or 6% the emissions you get from cattle, and that's nothing, of course, if you compare it with all the money that flows through medical industry.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that it's more than just a few percent, and all the energy and the efficiency that you get back from those people that are healthy again, that can work, let's say, they can help with building all those windmills and solar panels or whatever, or put themselves to use, be healthy again, happy. And of course, besides that's lead happy lives.
Just think about it. If everybody on the planet started reversing disease, specifically lifestyle diseases that they don't know what causes it, but we clearly know what does, and it all went like for 1 month, everybody did World Carnivore Month for or low carb, whatever. Mark, what do you think would happen?
I firmly believe if we all went low carb, our hospitals wouldn't be as busy.
Definitely.
That's just my honest opinion.
And someone mentioned this, and I think it was what's his name? It was a chef, Pete Evans. I think he's been a paleo keto guy for a long time, and I think he's Australian, and he's been like sort of excommunicated, but he's coming back with like he's right. I mean, I honestly think that, but he kind of said this in an interview where imagine all the pharmaceutical companies within a month would dip in their profits. Yeah. All the hospitals, all the medical bills would dip within a month. And we're talking lifestyle stuff.
Yeah.
We've all seen it instantly. People, it happens to people. Sleep apnea resolved in less than a week. I mean, I'm not saying it will.
But people need to be asking this. When's the stop? Why do we have to pay for our health? Why do we have to pay to improve our health? Why? I don't understand why we have to pay out thousands and thousands and thousands every single year to look after our health when we can do it all through diet. Now, I'm not saying it works for all cases, but I can guarantee you for about 95% of the world, it will actually work.
Yeah. And, it's just, it's, and you're right, Rick, like, you are the enemy, you're public enemy number one for sure, because if you just get your head out of your ass and see that you are being driven for profit and debt. Simple. Everything you buy, there's a purpose. It's not for your health. They want you to be part of the train. They want you to get there. And it's the hardest thing in the world when I talk to people at my clinic and we're talking about all sorts of addiction and problems, chronic pain. I say, what's your diet like? They say, oh, I eat healthy. And then I say, well, what's healthy? And they say, this or that or this or that.
Balanced diet. And that's always what you hear.
I'm like, how can I, this guy, tell you that oatmeal may and probably is harming you, if not disrupting the nutrition that you're providing with all the other stuff that you think is healthy.
Exactly. And you know what? I only put up a post on Instagram the other day. I took on a client there back in November. This woman had major mental health issues. Major mental health issues. She was on the verge a few times of ending her life. And she's been taking antidepressants for 12 years. I mean, take that in for a second. 12 years this woman took antidepressants. She sent me a message there last week and said to me that her medication is as low as 2 pills a day now. 2. And I was like, I can guarantee you we're not going to stop from here. I'm going to make sure you're off these altogether. But
Yeah.
when I hear stories like that, 12 years you've been on antidepressants. I mean,
That's power, man.
someone out there needs to explain. Someone out there needs to explain this to me. It's horrendous. It's absolutely
And
horrendous.
I just want to come across that and say, guys, we are not recommending you take yourself off medication. We are saying, actually, the most important thing is realizing you want to come off medication. And that is the catalyst to spark your own thing. And we do not suggest you do anything without your physician's supervision.
Yeah, especially with type 1 diabetes. I always say it, and I was actually, I have a story about this, but I always tell that at least you can reduce the need of insulin by diet and lifestyle, but you should never do it the other way around, reduce your insulin. And some diabetics do it. It's a nice trick. Yeah. You reduce insulin or almost to zero even, and you will lose a lot of weight because you will go into this ketoacidosis. Yeah. You should never do that. But coming back to the medication story, this year, and I'm going to do an injection right now because that is gluconeogenesis in practice. Because when you're in a life, I'm a bit more active. My brain is working. If I would be nervous, even worse, then I would have to inject even more insulin because the gluconeogenesis spike, the cortisol spike, would be even higher.
We got a live
injection. Now I'm controlling it. I'm controlling it, but just to say that this vial here is like 3 milliliters. Mm-hmm. It's tiny, but a type 2 diabetic will use maybe a tenfold of this a month or so. For me, this is like half a month of supply, and the type 2 diabetic sometimes even uses one such a vial in a day. Yeah. And I don't know about the cost of this, but this should be probably at least $100 or so, this stuff here. And when I think about it, I've been angry in the past about my diabetes because you can inject insulin and you get a different response because there are all these uncertainty factors. But I have been so angry sometimes that I threw these things against the wall because, if you're doing everything right and it doesn't, this insulin doesn't do its job, for whatever reason they don't explain, you get mad.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I have thrown some expensive stuff against the wall. I'm not proud of it, but that's part of let's say being chronically diseased.
Peter didn't have a steak that day. He didn't have a steak that day.
No, that's for sure.
Stop eating pork chops, man. Get back on the beef, buddy.
Yeah.
So that, and just further, like we've clearly stated, we're not doctors. I was pre-diabetic. I'm not anymore. And people say, well, you're lucky. It's your genetics. It's not. Look online. Look at anybody who is worth their weight in exploration into this space. Type 2 diabetes is reversible. Mm-hmm. It's clear. 5 years ago, they'd be talking about, the worst thing, you're going to amputate your legs. Talk to Gary Fettke. Look at his story. And yes, lambs. I was happy when I found carnivore. Oh, and we're sorry to hear that. Oh man, I feel you. Well, yes. Then the problem is brainwashing people, and that's, if there's a message that we can project, is you got to take it in your own hands. Become your own N of one. And, if something really, really bothers you, if Mark said something and it irks you, dig into it. Learn about it. Challenge him. Because every day I see Mark's videos and he is stating facts. He's bringing the rain. He's like, I'm sick and tired of people spouting off the same garbage. And here's the thing. What is 30 days? What is 90 days? In decades of your life, just to try. Because I know from my perspective, and I know from these guys, when you feel it, you know it. And what I suggest to people is, don't worry about the things you're going to be missing out on. Look at all the stuff that's going to come, because you will change. And when we start relying on natural signals. Hunger is different. These
And
hormones, we're getting back
yeah,
to the hormones here.
and I just want to go back on that as well, because this is the reason, this is the main issue I have with people taking Ozempic, is because they're taking the Ozempic, but their diet is still shit, or they're still taking the same medication, and they're wondering why do I still have pre-diabetes? Why do I still have mental health issues? Why am I struggling? Why am I struggling with depression, anxiety, all this crap? As the guys mentioned, we're not saying that you need to come off medication. We're not saying that at all. All we're saying is you just need to address the diet. You need to look at the diet first of all before you make this decision. Okay, I need to run to my doctor because I'm in a really, really bad way. Look at the diet, guys. Look at the diet. Have a look at it. See if there's anything you need to change. Because I guarantee you, there might be a few changes in there that could be hugely beneficial, and it could save you an absolute fortune paying these.
Yeah. Let me add one thing to that, is that if you do this GLP-1 agonist therapy, then a lot of people will also get some benefits during that time, because they will lose weight, and they often do change their diet a little bit, but it's lacking the learning experience.
Exactly.
So once you achieve this goal weight, then you'll return, even intentionally, you will return to your normal diet because you think everything is all right. And
I mean,
the same happens.
I'll give you an example. For years and years and years, I suffered with digestive issues. Years. Every doctor, every PT, every dietitian kept on saying to me, eat more fiber, have a digestive enzyme. I did all this. Guess what? This cost me a fortune. I was paying for digestive enzymes every month, and these were costing me nearly 40 euros a bottle every month. And I was always struggling. Always. It never, ever fixed the problem. And I had that for years. And I did that for 10 years straight. When I look back at how much money I spent on digestive enzymes, it's absolutely insane. Whereas now, I don't take any supplements whatsoever. I take no medication whatsoever. And my digestive system is probably the best it's ever been. I just feel amazing. I have no issue going to the toilet. I'm not constipated. I don't have any more issues with mental health. We have to understand this as well, that when I was going through all these issues with my gut health, this led to me having mental health issues. I woke up every day.
Yeah, definitely.
And there was days that I didn't want to wake up. There was days I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
I had many really, really deep conversations with my other half, explaining to her, you're better off without me.
And
you're better off. I was like, and this is when I had a child. I was in a really, really dark place, and I felt that these people are better off without me.
You know what, Mark? I'm gonna interrupt you. I apologize, but you know what? For people that are hearing this, I've seen it on social media, and if you're suffering, there's help. There's people that you can talk to. There's things that you can do. And I'm not just saying call me. I'm saying in this community, if you'll notice one thing, a lot of people resolve different things by addressing, the foundations of a proper diet. And what Mark's talking about, enzymes, digestive enzymes. What makes those? Well, what makes neurotransmitters? What makes our brain chemistry function?
Yeah.
Protein.
Yeah.
So I have a little thing that a friend of mine, I was at a gather, we were out at actually a sound bath, and we were doing a meditation, and there's this healer. She was saying how she can eat certain things if she takes her enzymes. And I'm looking at the things she's eating, and I'm not judging. I'm just looking at it going, you're eating a bunch of salad, a bunch of things, thinking that this is keeping the calories down. You're taking enzymes, protease, lipase, amylase, to break down the food that's not really food.
Exactly.
If you gave yourself the essential amino acids and started with the gut stability, and the pancreas and the pancreatic support, all of a sudden, but it's unbelievable. And I'm not saying stop the enzymes that you're not required to, and everybody's different. But I urge people to look at the foundations, essential nutrients. Mm-hmm. If you're not getting the essential nutrients in the right amounts, how is your body gonna work?
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark, but that's I see digestive issues resolve all the time, and it happens quickly, and it's not probiotics.
You look at the recommendation now for someone that has IBS. When you look at the recommendation of what people advise, what the health sector advise, they always say increase your fiber.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing you'll hear. I've heard that from people in the last 3 years that have been suffering with these conditions. Mark, I was told that I need to increase my fiber. I need to eat more fiber.
Mark, you just summed up my whole 3 years in nutrition school. Dark leafy greens, fiber, and probiotics.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, type 1 diabetics as well. They tell to take fiber. And of course, it does a little bit, but it will decrease your glucose spike from 250 to 180 because you're still eating carbs.
Yeah.
And actually, it's worse because if you eat fiber, especially if it's insoluble fiber, I think that's my suspicion anyway. But in general, fiber, if you eat it a lot, it will make the glucose response unpredictable.
Yes.
Because what happens, you ate this type of fiber or the other type of fiber, every day a different fiber because you need this variety.
You know what?
And so you will get the glucose spike 1 hour later or 2 hours later.
I can explain that, Peter, because, if this is from Dr. Robert Lustig, and he explained fruit and fiber. You have insoluble fiber, which is like a net. You have soluble fiber, which is like the gum. So when the glucose or when the sugar is getting transported in this fiber, it catches it. So the less fibrous fruit, the faster so a banana is less fibrous than an apple or a pear. So the more that thing will slow down the sugar load. It makes perfect sense. And what is nature? Nature presents us with fruit and sugar with fiber. So that's its trade-off, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what it doesn't happen, it doesn't work like this, of course. You can eat a shitload of fiber and next to eat table sugar cubes or so.
Yeah.
Of course, they are not going to mix or anything. The sugars will still be digested immediately and you'll be seeing a lot of fiber on the other end, but that's all what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And that's another big thing as well. Like when people are focusing on fiber, you'll always hear people saying that you need to eat fiber to go to the toilet every single day. This couldn't be further than the truth. You know what I mean? It couldn't be further than the truth because when you eat fiber, of course, it's going to be broken down and it's going to come out of you straight away because that's what happens. Fiber cannot be broken down. It goes into the system and it comes out the exact same way.
I'm gonna there's Kent Carnivore. I can't remember his name, but he's great. He's
Lycopus.
That's it. Okay. He has a colostomy bag. He is explaining how that happens when he eats vegetables, what presents itself. And I know this is kind of gross, but I really like to take things from a logical perspective, but the people that actually have something to say about it, who's going to tell him he's doing something wrong when he's telling you he's got to do this thing every day? He's got to deal with this every day. And he tells you when he eats certain things, how much easier it is. Well, do you think that's not happening in our gut? There's a reason we see the corn. There's a reason, you know what I mean? It's because it's just dragging through your bowels. And if you're not, I'm sorry to be a broken record and go back to the essential nutrients. If your gut is not built properly, that dragging corn and wheat oatmeal through it is causing nothing but problems. Exactly. And instead of cutting out the stuff that caused the stuff, they tell you to eat less of the stuff that heals the stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't agree with me, well, do that experiment and we'll see how you feel. After a little bit of an adjustment, because we all get that carnivore holy shit, that happens. Once you get past that, see how gentle it is on your bowels. And just
let's be clear that we are not saying that fibers are bad. I mean, and especially me personally, I think that if it are the soluble fibers, especially, they are not necessarily problematic. I eat one avocado actually since a few weeks every day.
We're talking, like, to be honest with you, I'm talking about, just funny how it all ties into this: corn, wheat, soy, oatmeal, all the refined grains that are just not, there's not really any place for them, you know? And people can say, oh, I like it, I don't want to give up bread. Yeah, but it's not bread anymore. Like, these are so far removed from history. And now with, you know, we can go, this is for next week, but we can go into Monsanto and Bayer and what they've done to our food supply. It's not the same anymore.
For
one thing about the fiber. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm going to mention, like Tony, what Tony mentioned earlier on about, like, my biggest weakness years ago was oatmeal. I would eat oatmeal with everything. I'd have protein oats, I'd have fruit oats. I used to have these shakes and I'd always put oats into them. And I was always told, just eat your oats. They're extremely healthy, because I wasn't a big vegetable eater. I'd only eat like a couple of vegetables a day, very, very little. And to be honest with you, my biggest weakness was spinach. I used to eat a lot of spinach with my eggs.
Sally Norton is coming for you, buddy.
Yeah. And when I look back at it, I was told for years and years and years, you need to eat more of this stuff.
Popeye.
This is actually doing the damage.
Popeye was telling us for years, man. Like, this is how you get strong. I couldn't understand it because I couldn't stand it. And he's telling me, no. You got to eat the spinach. Like, not only I'm going to get a Hulk. Yeah. So I would force myself to eat this spinach. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, it's delicious. As long as I put a shit ton of butter on it. You know?
Yeah. Mark, did you have specific symptoms that you can really point to oxalates?
Oh, yeah. Massively.
Tell me.
Massively. I'd be here all day talking about it.
Yeah, we should probably. We don't want to get into oxalates too deep here, guys, because that could be a whole other time. So like I said, this is the meat of the matter. We are here every Sunday. We're going to talk about stuff that they don't want us to talk about, and we love it. And, you know, Mark, every day I enjoy your videos. Oh, Matt, thanks for checking in, man. From Pennsylvania. How do you guys like? We're going to change it up a little bit. Let's talk about this TikTok garbage that's going on with the States. How are you going to feel about that?
I seen that. Is it all gone or what is it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just, you know, it's funny because I heard something from our future prime minister say, like, we're going to follow suit in Canada. I don't know if it's, you know, we'll get into oxalates, lambs, don't worry. But I don't know what's going on. Have you guys heard, like, how is it in Holland, Peter, with TikTok? Nothing?
Here it's fine. They are several years ago. They forbid, I think, government officials and those type of people to use TikTok. That's about
the government. So the government in Holland is all about TikTok, but they're not about the farmers.
Yeah.
No, they forbid TikTok. So yeah.
Well, I woke up first thing this morning and I looked on TikTok, and every single video was like, I'm sorry, TikTok is gone. You can look on my other social platforms. And I was like, is it really, really going? And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how many people were talking about it. It was like the world was...
You know what, Rick? I didn't either until I got kind of whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to mention the word because I don't want to get it again. But on YouTube. So I jumped on TikTok, and that's how I met these guys, which was really cool because, you know, we kind of hit it off right away. And, you know, and I will say the carnivore, low carb, keto, real human food culture community on TikTok is fantastic. And there are so many new people trying this. And it's awesome because when I started it probably in October, I saw people jump on and they were starting the carnivore, whatever, their new diet for 30 days. And now they've been with me, and it's pretty cool to see them all keep going.
It's an amazing feeling, isn't it?
And you know, it's just goes to show you, this is the sign of the times. This is where we're at. They're taking that. They're trying to take that away. It's going to start with the States. I think Canada is going to follow suit. And I'm like, of course, I should have been on this 5 years ago when I started YouTube, but no, of course now they're. But I mean,
it's the same for type 1 diabetes community on YouTube. I mean, there do exist some channels, but the real community, I find it hard to find on YouTube anyway. But TikTok, it's huge. It's like thousands of channels, and the TikTok chat feature especially helps to build this community as well. So I am in contact with a lot of type 1, newly diagnosed type 1 diabetics, and for me that's back into memory lane. I wish I had it like 16 years ago. Somebody to talk with to talk about it.
I spend most of my time on TikTok because of that. Because there's actually
same here.
more carnivores or more keto people on carnivore, and whereas Instagram you have to look for a few people. But every time when I go on TikTok, I'll always see a video of Tony. I'll always see a video of Peter. I'll always see somebody talking about carnivore, and it's just amazing because these people are just speaking sense straight away.
And you know what I kind of I'm trying to do, what I try and do is I don't want to be the broken record either, as far as, I love that you're different styles. Peter, you're showing things like that you got this, this kind of charming way of presenting your stuff. And Mark, I love the hitting home. And, it's really cool to see the different personalities shine through. And just for everybody listening, watching, whatever you're doing, when you see this, we're just trying to get things out there, and we appreciate you. I think we're starting with 12 today, boys. I love it. But you know what? We just want to create a space where you can come, ask questions, be part of it. And we're learning. We're, all of us, we're not exactly tech gurus. So if there's any producers out there that want to come and help us out, spread the message, by all means, we could use all the help we can get, because this was the inception of the Meat of the Matter podcast was literally a week and a half ago. And Mark was like,
and this is what we decided to do, guys. All three of us decided to do this a couple of days ago. Because we just feel we have a voice. And we feel we have a lot to offer. And you will see this on a week-to-week basis, because we're going to be talking about topics on controversial topics. We're going to be bringing guests on. We're going to be bringing people on that have been living this lifestyle, that have cured their diabetes, have cured their PCOS, have cured their mental health. You're going to hear so many people come on. It's not just going to be a live Q&A every week. We're also going to do other. So we're going to try and keep it entertaining as possible.
We'll try our best. And to be honest, like for everybody that's just listening to this and stuff, like where we're coming from, I've been doing this a long time. I've been really trying to learn about my body, health, nutrition, and a lot of the stuff that I've come across is relative. And I know a lot of people get really, really kind of lost in the science and the stuff. You don't have to. Really, what we're trying to do is just show you a different side. Show you that we've not only done it, and we're not perfect, and anything that we say that you don't agree with, great, challenge it. Do your own diligence and research. And what I would please keep in mind, if it's everything that Dave ever said and there's a certain narrative, challenge it, because there is a different side. Look at all the different opinions out there, and what you resonate with, go for it. And Bonnie, increase salt. Yeah, I mean, salt can be tricky, but I mean, that's a whole. We'll get into electrolytes and what happens.
But there are some names that you can look up about salt. I've been eating a lot of salt, actually, the first 2 years of carnivore, but I am now reducing it. And I know that, for example, Bella from Steak and Butter Girl, that she, I think she doesn't take any salt even. Yeah. And Dr. Chavy probably also, well, maybe he uses it a little bit for the dry aging his steaks in the fridge, but probably that's it.
I've actually switched it up. I've don't season my steaks anymore with salt. I put it on after. That's just something I found. It's kind of maybe that's a carnivore.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, boys. Before we're gonna. I think it's getting close to the time to wrap up because we're. This is the first one. Thank you, boys, for being part of this, and I look forward to doing this every Sunday with you guys because I think you guys bring a lot of wisdom and some value that can change people's lives. And we may not be perfect, but we're damn it, we're gonna try. And I know all of our countries have different laws, different things, but it's nice to have a camaraderie, a group that we can kind of all fall on each other and share some stuff. We are going to be doing this. We are going to get into some real people, real stories. Hopefully we'll get some guests on from time to time. We're going to iron out the kinks as we go. So bear with us. Mark, quick shout out to how people can get a hold of you.
So if you guys want to reach out to me, you can just reach out to me on all platforms. I'm a Fitness Beyond Time 01.
Awesome. Peter?
Yeah, I think I don't have to mention it because it's nice to see all these familiar names in the chat. Look me up here. This one, this is also a learning experience. This one here, yeah.
Awesome. And you can find me on YouTube at Tony Stewart Coach. And, I have a website, TonyStewartCoaching.com. I do free consults. So if you even want to just have a chat, by all means, get a hold of me. All of our information will be in the description below. Peter and I are working on the technicalities. Mark's here to stand with a fist. Boys, thank you very much. I appreciate you both, and I appreciate you all. We're trying. We're going to be here every Sunday. That's Mark. He's Peter. I'm Tony. Pleasure is ours.
We're out. Bye-bye, guys.
See you.